let me recap again. So people will see a definition of anxiety as worrying about something or feeling nervous. So worrying about something and feeling nervous is a definition of anxiety. And the point I was just making before the internet cut me off was that, worryingly, I worried about it, is that actually there's a lot more with anxiety and food related behaviours that's going on. It's just that some people may or may not recognise it. And as you guys know, with all of my lives, for example, all of this is planned a month ago. When it comes to hot topics and anything else, I'll plan ahead by 2-3 weeks. So actually, whilst like everything through lockdown, a lot of it was just proposed kind of behaviours. Actually, the word anxiety is coming out a lot in people's languages over the last couple of weeks because of that, because it's the worry and nervousness about either a change in circumstances with their routine, etc., or about the future. And sometimes that comes out in food choices and behaviours, like I said, and it's not necessarily related. So another sign of anxiety is actually trouble concentrating, right? So while somebody may be worrying and feeling nervous, yes, it's a true symptom of some. Again, I'm using that word as a definition. However, there's lots of other words that go with it. They may also have almost like I've heard a client call it like brain fog, where they're not quite focused on something. And that will tend to impact food prep, for example. So you can see how it's quite subtle. So someone struggling with anxiety may not be able to focus on planning too many days ahead, because for them, use the moments of clarity that they may have, almost like a spotlight, and hang on to it, and then do as much as they can in that space, just recognizing that it may not be perfect or as they want it to be because of that, because they have an inability to concentrate for a long period of time. So that's one sign as well. That might be something else is happening other than just worrying or feeling nervous. Something else as well that I've talked about a lot, it is here again, I would say, the trouble with sleeping phenomenon is very, what's the word? It's just everywhere. It's a very common conversation I'm having with clients, and is often to do with the same process of thinking and rethinking a situation or a proposed situation, and then that impacting sleep. Now, that's one symptom, if you like, and the knock-on effect with food then can be low energy. So low energy, sugar dips, then sugar waves, so riding the wave of carbs as a dipping up and down. Again, potentially then feeding into the previous symptom of being unable to concentrate for long periods of time because of tiredness, which then still leads into more decisions around food prep or lack of food preparation, and then going to easy, quick choices. Now, for some people, it's a lot easier said than done when it comes to sleep. And each of these things actually have their own solution, resolution. And whilst I can throw out some that I've had with clients before, the challenging thing is that often with sleep, the solution for each client is very bespoke to the individual. And that, hey Layla, we're back. We're back, Layla. I was waiting for you to sing. Sorted the IT problem, Layla, right there. Called an IT guy, restarted everything. It's fine. So the thing is about the trouble with sleep, it's alive with itself, which I think you can all catch up on, is that the solution is very bespoke to the individual. How to combat sleep is based on a range of environmental and mental situations, which has to be agreed bespoke with a coach, I think. So if you're a client and you're, by the way, experiencing this, as always, I always say this, please talk to your coach. And this is what we're here for. It's not always, this is still related to food and fitness and health, like overall health, mental health as well as physical. And so if you are experiencing these symptoms, it's all right to talk about it. And by me talking about it, I'm kind of bringing it to the forefront that it's all right to talk about it. Another thing we see or have seen is a loss of appetite. Now, I think, great, I'm trying to lose weight, losing appetite, fantastic, I'm going to lose weight. True, right? So somebody who may be experiencing some level of anxiety will have a loss of appetite because actually they're fundamentally too busy thinking about stuff to think about food. So they're bypassing their brain and they're not listening to their body and actually just constantly focusing on the thing that is actually impacting them emotionally or mentally. Now, whilst for short term, this is actually quite effective in terms of weight loss, we'll say, because it's generally not body fat, it's probably water loss, because that person's probably not drinking water either. It's likely to cause, I will call it a rebound, because it actually is. That's the terminology I use, where somebody who's in a high stress anxiety period of time will eat very, very small, or if at all, not drink water, if at all. And although it will be a stressful time, we'll usually come out of the conversation saying, well, at least I lost weight, and then find it's all back on within a week or so, and then go back into loop of feeling down about it. Putting it mildly, I suppose, isn't more than that. However, actually the reality is it's just a water shift. So if someone is going through this at the minute, well, I've got quite a few clients going through this at the moment, not eating or eating smaller meals because they are worried or nervous, for example, using their terminology for definition. This is also not unusual. It's also important, again, if you're experiencing this, to discuss it with your coach so that if and when the rebound happens, it can be discussed and there's a strategy you can put in place with your coach that helps manage that rebound to some degree, as in understand the expectation of why you've lost weight so quickly and how much of it is body fat and how much might be water, and actually what's going to happen as you start to open up the floodgates, because that is from experience. When somebody's anxiety starts to release or abate, whatever you want to call it, and their appetite comes back, it comes back, right? And it comes back with full force. So it's always good to have a strategy in place to help manage that and have a support system behind you as well, just to ensure that everyone knows what's happening, right? And just manage it together. So this one, I can see this as well. So someone who is already in an anxious state will understandably then also avoid scary situations, right? Or feared situations, if you want to put it like that. Now, I'm not talking about going to war or anything like that, or going up on a spider if you've got problems with spiders. What will often happen is that, and this I will see often as well, I'm going to just call it as it is right now. If someone is in a very anxious state, they may not actually want to have contact with their coach. Now, that could be for a number of reasons. What I've also experienced is that clients will feel that they're going to be judged, or avoid boot camp, yes, fear that. A client may feel they're going to be judged by their coach because of what's happening with their food choices, because they've got trouble concentrating right, so they're not prepping their food, they have trouble sleeping, so they're eating high carb, they're potentially not eating for a period of time and eating a lot, they know that they're in a state of worrying or being nervous about things, and yet really what's happening is they're then avoiding having a conversation with their coach because they're scared. They feel that they're going to be judged by the coach. What we found is that actually, simply by talking it through with the coach, we can resolve it. And we found that actually having that conversation brings so much reassurance to the client, because they realise, just as I'm talking about it now, this is part of all being going through a point of anxiety, and what happens with someone's food. It is completely standard. The thing is that often someone will avoid dealing with it or avoid facing it, and actually in a completely kind of vicious circle way, it actually still makes it worse rather than better. And it kind of all ties in with each other. Hey, Kate. And really the final point I wanted to make on this before I recap, and I mentioned it early on, I'm not sure if it's this take or the previous take, who knows, because we have to do two. Anxiety isn't, well, the point I'm making, anxiety isn't just worrying and feeling nervous about things. There's a whole other, like I've just gone through a couple here. I could have gone to town. I could spend like an hour just talking about how different people experience different levels of anxiety and what that turns into when it comes to food. I've picked the biggest ones because these are the ones that are happening right now or have been happening to people. Or you might even recognise some of this from previous times during the year that we've experienced collectively as a team, as a family. And you're going, oh God, that sounds like me at that particular point, right? I think we've all experienced it at some point. So it has much more depth to this. And the thing is that I'm bringing awareness to it. This is more of an awareness episode than anything else, because the main thing as well is that often if somebody's in the middle of all of this, so the client is going through what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe different elements of this. The strongest feeling they'll have over all of it is feeling alone, right? So some will feel alone because actually they're not reaching out for help, because they're avoiding what they perceive to be a difficult conversation because they think they'll be told off or judged or anything else. And actually that can leave them feeling quite isolated and trying to manage their weight or their shape or their health, whatever you want to call it, in a very lonely position or alone. And the reality is, you never are. And no, I could do a live about asking for help on its own. Like that in itself is a skill to overcome, and I might even do that. Because for somebody in this position, it can be the hardest thing for them to do is to actually ask for help and say, actually, this is what's happening. Mainly because of perhaps for them the stigma that's attached, or even the personality type that they're not used to asking for help. However, hopefully me talking about this openly and helping people understand that this is all consequences of anxiety and food that is completely, I want to say the word normal. It's standard human behaviour when it comes to what's happening to somebody mentally in a particular period of time. And actually, it's all resolvable, right? So, to recap, well, Layla, heart. So to recap, what people generally, I think in life, will think anxiety is just a couple of definitions, which is true if you look at the dictionary as well. It's the element that somebody has got anxiety, they are worrying, and they're feeling nervous about something. The reality is it's a lot deeper in terms of what could be happening with somebody and how that's impacting their daily life when it comes to food. So what's really happening is a number of things. So trouble concentrating, again, I could do this live on that one its own. Brain fog, whatever you call it. Someone is not going to be in the position to food prep. They're going to go for easy, quick food that is generally within their grasp because they can't think that far ahead. And planning can help. However, in the middle of it, the brain fog doesn't always allow them to get there. They may have and will have trouble sleeping, which has a knock-on effect of low energy and sugar dips, high carb intakes here and there. And then, ironically, you can also have a loss of appetite entirely, where you're too busy thinking about something to even think about being hungry, which, like I said, you might think it's a silver lining, However, the reality is you're probably not losing body fat, you're losing water, and it can cause a rebound emotionally and physically in a client that needs the support of a coach, really, and that's one of the priority things, is to talk about it. Also, to be fair, I didn't even talk about the guilt and shame element. Like, I touched on it, but in the recap I'll talk about it again. Again, feeling guilt and shame about even having anxiety or having some anxiety about something also can result in someone comfort eating, right? To soothe themselves from what they perceive to be shame attached to even the language around it. So again, adds into the vicious cycle of then also avoiding the conversation. So by avoiding the conversation, the potential conflict that somebody might perceive between their coach and them, they may be judged or questioned about their behaviour, actually will just lead them away from discussing it and into more loneliness and fearing the outcome of that conversation, when in reality it's just me talking about it now. So I think my main message would be, if anybody is of our clients or anybody else who is experiencing this in a minute, reach out and ask for help. Like, I know it can be incredibly difficult in the moment and feel like reaching out of the deep sea to grab onto something. However, we're there to help, so we're going to throw a lifeline. Probably more, I'll be a little bit more efficient than that if I was actually I haven't trained for a while, I might need to get strength behind it. However, the point I'm trying to make is that as a team, collectively, we're here as a lifeline. So if you're experiencing any of this, talk about it, talk to your coach, reach out and ask for help. More on a similar topic tomorrow-ish, because again, this is quite a common topic at the minute, and we're talking about eating your emotions tomorrow, literally. So join me for that. I'm sure Nazreen will ask for a toy again. Nazreen, still don't know where it is, promise. I'll spend the rest of the evening trying to find it, probably. It's going to go in camera and go, here it is. Whoa, see if I can find it. We'll find out tomorrow. So have a lovely evening, guys, and I'll catch you tomorrow.